As we go marching, marching in the beauty of the day, a million darkened kitchens, 1,000 mill lofts gray, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. As we go marching, marching, we battle too for men, for they are women's children, and we mother them again. Our lives shall not be sweated from birth until life closes. Hearts starve as well as bodies. Give us bread, but give us roses. As we go marching, marching.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the launch of the centenary of International Women's Day. This festival is about celebrating what women have achieved over the last century, while we also recognise that women have not yet reached full social, economic and political equality. Several women's organisations, women's groups and individuals from across Belfast have been working together, organising this festival for the past year. And it is great to see so many people out today. It's absolutely brilliant. In 1910, Clara Zetkin proposed the idea of an International Women's Day to be celebrated annually on the same day across the world, where women would campaign for their demands. Now we have it in the minutes that the Belfast City Council is supporting International Women's Day, noting our achievements but noting that there is a long way to go, and supporting the women's sector and supporting women's equality, so we can work with Councillor Kelly as to how we're going to progress this. And the first person I'm going to introduce tonight is Geraldine Bradley, who's going to sing for us. Please welcome Geraldine.
This song is called Union Woman. I am a Union woman, as brave as I can be. I do not like the bosses, and the bosses don't like me. Join the MU, come and join the MU.
And it gives me great pleasure to welcome our very first speaker, the reluctant Helen Crickard, who's standing at the back of the room. Helen is going to talk to us today about the event called From Here to Equality, a great exhibition of women's art. So please, Helen.
When I put the call out for women to partake in the show, I was inundated with people. So we've got a wide, diverse range of paintings, photography, videos, installations, and there's craft work as well. So there's a whole wide range of artwork, and it's going to be a very enjoyable show in Lawrence Street Workshops, which is just nestled off Botanic Avenue, just off Cromwell Road, and it's a lovely, lovely place, and we'll have some nice apple wine for everyone on welcome.
Next up, can we have, from Belfast, who are doing lots of great things, gives me pleasure to introduce Kelly Turtle.
To finish off on Sunday, the 13th, we're having a pro-voice performance looking at the issue of abortion. It's a brand new piece written by some women involved in a local theatre group, and we're taking real stories of women who travel from here to England to have abortions and dramatising those. It's a rehearsed reading. It's in the very early stages, so we'd love as many people as possible to come along and give us feedback about it.
You probably all know Martin Carter from Lawrence Street, and he's the man behind the changing street names.
My own mother, single parent, worked very hard, did everything right as far as she was concerned in her life, and I suppose really it was a woman who made this city, and yet there's not a woman mentioned anywhere. I thought I'd sort of try to get a little one sentence. Helen said you can't speak for long, so I thought I'll try and get sort of 3 words, which was monarchists and militarists, but no matriarchs.
Please welcome Margaret Ward, who's Director of Women's Resource and Development Agency.
This is part of our whole planning group, which is part of the street signs. It's part of looking at women's heritage and what women have done in the last 150 years to make Belfast the city that it is. Nora Quigley is going to be providing the commentary on the bus. We're meeting next Wednesday, 10:30 in Royal Avenue, opposite the Central Library at Cathedral Buildings that houses the Women's Support Network, Women into Politics. I think next year, International Women's Day, will be even more about trying to really bring up the whole issue about women's heritage in Belfast. It was great that we had the motion in the City Council.
Last Tuesday evening, at the City Council meeting, Councillor Bernie Kelly proposed a motion to mark the centenary of International Women's Day. I should have done that. Stating that the Council joins with women of Belfast in celebrating the achievements thus far and pledges its support to the work towards a more equal future for women. I am delighted that this motion was passed by Belfast City Councillors. So we are celebrating your achievements so far, while maintaining an eye on the work still to be done to create an equal and fair future. As Lord Mayor, I wish each woman here every success progressing with this work.
We have another great event. QFT are having a women's forum, and to tell us about that, could we welcome Claire Hackett?
For the last 2 or 3 years, Hannah's House has been organising a series of seminars and conferences across Ireland on the theme of dealing with the past around the conflict and how to build a feminist future. So this event in the QFT is really capturing some of that experience. You know, people have been talking about reclaiming our history and our heritage, and I suppose whenever we were organising the seminars and conferences, we thought we need to record these as we go along, because that will be part of our history in the future. So in a sense, that's what our event is on Thursday. It's a series of podcasts that we made about those events, and it features some of the speakers that spoke at them. It's going to be on Thursday, next Thursday, the 10th of March, starting at 6:30. And we're going to give you a selection of the podcasts that we recorded. We're going to introduce them. There's going to be wine. It's going to be social. You're very welcome all of you too.
When you say Shankill Road, you don't often think of the suffrage movement, but all that is going to change. I'm delighted to welcome now our next speaker, Peter Morgan Barnes.
We had a collection of women from the Shankill Women's Centre, some from Ligoneel, and we researched the women's suffrage movement in the newspaper archive.
1871, you had the Northern Ireland Women's Suffrage Society. By 1908, that became the Irish Women's Suffrage Society, just right. And it had branches in Belfast, Derry, Whitehead, Bangor. 1909, Lillian Mickey formed a branch in London. So you were getting all of these little societies coming up in the 20th century.
Rita created the image from local women in the Shankill and some others put together.
And it's kind of good in that it's directly opposite the Co-op food store. So all the women coming out of there with their kind of groceries can actually look over at this image, see a huge feast on the table, and maybe deliberate and think about what it is to be a woman in 2011.
And the launch is noon, and it's a week tomorrow.
So please give a big welcome from the Shankill for the Ulster award-winning playwright Mary Jones.
Look at me standing here with no notes, and it's not that I'm very cocky, I haven't really thought about it. And I just want to take you back probably about 30 years ago when I wrote my first play along with Martin Lynch's play about the linen mills in Belfast. We had to do some research. So on our first kind of meeting with anybody that had any connections with the mills, we ended up in Woodvale and Sadie Patterson's house. And I remember sitting there that night with this wonderful woman who had such a wonderful strength and calm about her and feeling totally inspired. And she said to me that night, you know, my mother was a suffragette, and I think all of us, there were 5 women there that night, and we couldn't believe it. We thought the suffragette movement was a middle class movement in England. We didn't know that ordinary working people from Belfast, from the Shankill Road, were suffragettes. And then she said, see that chair you're sitting on? Nye Bevan sat there. Well, that's when we were completely amazed. I don't know if anybody knows Nye Bevan was a Welsh Labour MP activist and champion of the women's vote. And she thought, I'm going to bring this man over to Belfast and see if he can help us. Well, what strength, and that came from the Shankill Road. So And her daughter, Sadie Patterson, I think she instilled in her the same spirit and the same strength. And the fact, what she told me that day also was, because Sadie herself was a great union activist, as you know, and a real champion for women. She said she used to stand at the street corner, and I think it could well be this street corner, when the women were going to the mills, this way back in the 40s. And she said she used to stand like this. And before long, a crowd had gathered around her going, "What are you looking at, Sadie?" And everybody was looking up. And she said, "I'm not looking up nothing, I just want to gather a crowd around me. Now, what about forming a union?" I remember leaving her house that night, and she said to all of us, as we were young women then, she said, "You know, you are the daughters of the women who made this city. It's up to you to tell their story. You have the power in your voice to do that." And I think we all walked out that night and knew that our lives had changed forever. I just want to talk about the mural because I think it's absolutely fantastic. It depicts what you want. It's got spirit, it's got humour, it's got strength, it's got story, and it's uplifting. Officially, you know, enjoy, it's fantastic, and Rita Duffy is an amazing person. She's even now, as I was speaking to her earlier, she's talking about the next idea. You can't put that woman down. She's fantastic. So support her, support the arts, and enjoy this wonderful, wonderful mural. And thank you very much for having me. It was a real honour.
Please give a very warm welcome to Dawn Purvis, MLA.
So delighted to be here. Happy International Women's Day. Lynn has asked me to talk about my experience in Iraq.
You can see that whilst we have come an awful long way, we have still a small bit to go in terms of equality. But when you listen to those women in Iraq, where they make up 60% of the population, where there's only 18% in work, where young girls are taken out of school at 8 years of age, and that's their education over. Where education is mainly for boys. And one woman said to me, when she challenged her male colleagues in the party about girls' education and the importance of girls having an education, he said, "That's your problem, you need to give us more boys, babies. You need to breed more boys. That's your problem, it's not our problem." And so the impact on a growing generation of young girls and women is horrendous, because when they're taken out of school at 8 years of age, it's about learning to run the home. It's about marriage. It's about family. So they're uneducated. They therefore have very little aspiration, very little expectation from life. And they have these things called personal status laws in Iraq, which basically means it's a man's world. The man is the head of the house, and no one is allowed to enter that house because it is his domain. So if a woman is being battered to death by her husband, the police are not allowed to enter that house. If that woman suffers sexual attacks and violent physical attacks from her husband on a regular basis, no one is allowed to enter that house. So there isn't the same level of support as we would have here through, say, for example, Women's Aid or the police. Those women agreed a big list. It looked like an Andrex toilet roll by the end of it, but a big list of recommendations that they were going to put to their two parliaments. On top of that list was a women's parliamentary caucus. And they said to me that even the fact that the conference had taken place after so many years was such a proud moment for all of them to be there. But the fact that they could agree to form that women's parliamentary group to take issues forward was like climbing a mountain. And the hope, whilst there's a lot of harm, there's an awful lot of hope in that country. And it's universal agreement that Saddam Hussein was a monster, he was bad for the country, and they're glad to see the back of him. But they are aware of the progress that still has to be made, and I came away thinking they're going to do it together. Thank you very much.
So it's from here to equality is the theme of today.
And we're here to celebrate a fantastic day. We have a choir called Folka Luka, so put your hands together for Folka Luka!
As we go marching, marching in the beauty of the day, a million darkened kitchens, 1,000 mill lofts grey, are touched with all the radiance that a silent sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. As we come marching, marching, we battle to for men. For the struggle of the classes is the struggle to for them. Our lives shall not be sweated from birth until life closes. Our soul as well as bodies give us as roses.
Delighted to invite Linda Walker to speak. Linda came to Belfast in 1969 with her daughter and her son, and she adopted Belfast as her home. She's a political activist who is committed to changing the world, not just for a few, but for everyone. She's been instrumental in the fight for workers' rights and in setting up the first Women's Centre in Belfast and in helping to organise many International Women's Day events. In her work in college, Linda has taught people from women's centres, Shorts, Bombardier, and Boucher Road Training Centre, etc. And barely a day goes by without she meets up with one of her past students. I'm sure to be here today. She is, of course, famous for being involved with the campaign against the removal of school milk, orange juice and cod liver oil, when in 1971, Education Minister Margaret Thatcher cut these as part of the Tory budget. Women here fought against these cuts, and she was one of them. I welcome Linda to the platform.
Thank you. I'm here today representing all the women's organisations that helped me today. I have to say, if you're expecting a revolutionary speech, don't. I made it 40 years ago, and we're still here fighting the same cuts and the same struggle, you know. Today is a day to celebrate, but we can celebrate much better when we don't have any prostitution, when we don't have any people living on the streets, when we don't have any drug addiction. You know, I want the very best for my children, but I want the very best for everybody else's children as well. And so, I'm here to welcome you from Twinbrook to Tullycarnif, from the Shankill to Shanghai, from Ballybean to Ballyjamesduff, and from New Lodge to New York. And in particular, of course, welcome Viney Burrows, who was a US peace activist, and she's here with us, come all the way from New York to be with us today. And she's performing in the Dresden Theatre later this week.
Because I am an older woman, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm actually a great-grandmother, I have had more interest in the political and economic equality of women rather than the social. but I can understand the desires of younger women to call themselves feminists. I say I struggle for women's rights.
All the young people like you, young people who are working hard to build the future.
Young Chase is a group done by Congolese and few Belfast people, and then it's a group that we're trying to awareness of what's going on in Congo, the rape of women, the attack of civilians, and we're part of the Congolese women, and we feel we have to represent them because as we've been there, some of us are the victims of the war, and some of us know what's going on there, and some of us have the willing to represent those women who are not represented.
100 years ago, there would probably have been as many prominent women known in Northern Ireland, because you can count them in two hands, where I think there's about 14% now, which is terrible. It's less than actually 20 women up there in the Assembly. Do we have to wait another 100 years?
We have to find new ways of raising the value of our young girls and our young women, so that they should know not to have their bodies valued more than their brains, that they can be a mother and a manager and aspire to have their ambitions and their dreams met, to be the actor of changing attitudes, so that they, with us, the older women, can meet these challenges together. And finally, we have that courage and we have that care in our hearts. I remember once someone saying to me that women work with their heads, their hands and their hearts, often all three together. The seeds have to go on to be planted everywhere. For the women as we watch every night in the Middle East and North Africa, and for all the women struggling for peace and justice in their land. This has to be our century. And I want to celebrate the women here in Northern Ireland, who struggled for peace with their spirit of openness and showed time and time again what was possible here on our streets, in our villages, in our communities. Women here believed and dreamed of a different future, and we will never give up. We can say that women here did fight, as the song says, for bread and for roses too. Women want only freedom, peace, but joy as well, and that's not too much to ask. So, as we look back over the last 100 years, we look forward through this century and keep our dreams. And let us remember the words of this poem. As we gather out of stardust, earth dust, cloud dust, storm dust, and splinters of hail, one handful of dream dust, never for sale. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Monica and Linda and Focaloka and Martin at the workshops for doing the banners, Rory and all for doing all the artwork. So thanks very much everyone for coming. And you Party Sisters!
Welcome to you all, 100 women from North, South, East and West Belfast, into the City Hall to celebrate 100 years of International Women's Day.